Welcome to free awareness classes on Indian Constitution conducted by Tരണന Educational and Cultural Society through Irinjalakuda Vivekananda Civil Service Academy's YouTube channel every day at 7 p.m. This is me, Mahesh Mr. If you are interested in this class, please like and share it. Today, we are going to discuss about Article 36 of Indian Constitution related to Directive Principles of State Policy. Here, in DPSP, we have the articles from 36 to 51. And this article defines the term state. Earlier, in Article 12, we could see how the state defined. The same thing is applicable here as well. That is the very important point. So, in Indian Constitution, in Articles 12 and 36, the term state has been defined. Here I would say the term state in brief. State means a body which is taking a decision and implementing them. And while implementing such decisions that affecting the people. For example, union government is a state, union parliament is a state. When you come across the term union government, president, vice president, prime minister and the council of ministers all will come. They are all part of state. And when you come across the term union parliament, both Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha will come to picture. They are also state, isn't it? So, why in two articles define the term state? Because in Article 12, that's a part of fundamental rights. And here, in most of the cases, state will try to deny fundamental rights to the citizens. That's why the term state given in Article 12. Like that, in the case of Directive Principles of State Policy, that is also given by the state to the citizens. That's why in Article 36, also the term state has defined. What is the basic difference between fundamental rights and DPSP? See, fundamental rights are guaranteed rights, but the directive principles of state policy are not guaranteed rights. In both the cases, rights of the citizens have been explained. In fundamental rights, these rights are civil and political rights. If any one of them denied by the state, citizens can approach the court. Whereas in DPSP, the social and economic rights have been discussed. Here there is no binding upon the state. If there is adequate resources to the state, then state can give these rights to the citizens. Otherwise will not. So here in this case of DPSP, citizens can't approach the court. They are not guaranteed rights. But you see, while framing any laws, these are the guidelines, these are the fundamentals to the state to follow. That is their moral obligation and responsibility. Of course, there is no binding upon. But you see, if the government is not making the laws according to the provisions of DPSP, or if the government is not administering the government in a proper manner or according to the provisions of DPSP, definitely they have to answer in front of people's court during the time of election. That is very important. Here, fundamental rights mainly deals with the welfare of the individuals, whereas DPSP mainly deals with the welfare of the society. Another difference we can say, we can enforce the fundamental rights directly. But in the case of DPSP, it is not possible to enforce or implement them directly. First of all, they have to make laws according to the provisions of DPSP. For example, to protect wildlife, the Wildlife Protection Act 1972 created. To protect the forest, the government created the Conservation of Forest Act 1980. See, if there is no provision in DPSP to make a law, first of all, the parliament should make that provision first. For example, here you see, through 42nd Amendment in 1976, Parliament enacted Article 39A. Article 39A means to provide a free legal aid to the citizens. On the basis of this Article 39A, later in 1987, Legal Service Authority Act was passed. And you see, another important point to remember here, fundamental rights, I already told you, they are justiciable in nature, whereas DPSP is non-justiciable in nature. That's why from the day one onwards, there is a conflict between the fundamental rights and the DPSP. The state always will favor directive principles of a state policy, whereas in the case of citizens, they will favor fundamental rights. In the year 1951, Chembagam Doraraj case, Supreme Court said, state can amend the provisions of fundamental rights. Here in this case, Chembagam, who was seeking admission in Madras University for MBBS, she questioned in Article 15, state says there shall not be any discrimination. But in Article 46, the same constitution says, if there is no adequate representation for SC, ST, the state can provide some sort of reservation to them. State can provide a reservation to weaker sections in education institutions. She questioned that. After that case, Parliament made many changes, many enactments, many amendments rather in fundamental rights. Later, Supreme Court decided to control them, so that in the year 1967, Golaknath case, Supreme Court said, to implement the provisions of DPSP, it is not possible to amend the provisions of fundamental rights. Later in 1973, Keshavananda Bharati case, Supreme Court undoubtedly said, Parliament can amend any provisions of the Constitution, including the preamble, but not the basic structure. Finally, in Minerva Mills case, 1980, Supreme Court said, both the fundamental rights and the directive principles of state policy should go side by side in a balanced manner. So now, I think you could understand Article 36 and also the difference between fundamental rights and DPSP. I am concluding this session. So all of you, thank you very much.